Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Babbling Nines video with myself and Sloth. Little bit of a debate show here, Sloth, with Ben Johnson. Obviously, it's being rumoured that he could potentially now stay at West Ham. Obviously, he's got until the end of June until his contract officially runs out, and he would be a free agent on the market. But I mean, Ben Johnson's story and journey at West Ham has been really up and down. Obviously, he broke through, 4 or 5 years ago now away at Man City. And then he's came into the squad, made himself a mainstay when we, were pushing high up in the league and in Europe. And it just seems the last couple of seasons he's just been kind of pushed out of the squad. Obviously, his performance has dipped. He's had to play in a lot of different positions across the board in that time. And it seems since the turn of the year in 2024, he had that turn in performances where his cameos were really, really good, whether it was playing from midfield, whether it was playing right back, whether it was playing right wing at times. His individual performances were really, really good. So is this one that, again, we'll get into whether we would keep him or just let him go in a minute, but is his journey a little bit strange to you that he was kind of frozen out how he was after, pretty much being a mainstay in that team for a large period?
Yeah, and I think there have been performances which really show how much he kind of deserved the inclusion. You think about Lyon away and the performance he gave there. And I think everyone, when they watched that, they thought, okay, right, there's the player we saw at Manchester City. And hopefully he's going to kick on from there. But it just seems to have been like, I don't want to say he's not grabbed the opportunity, because I think the opportunities have been so few and far in between.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, like some of the decisions to play in midfield or out on the wing are just baffling to me. I really don't understand that thought process. And look, we've had some fantastic seasons back to back, but I think there's been some really shocking decision making there at times. And whether that's in transfer terms or whether it's in terms of tactics themselves, I just don't. I think draw a line under it and say, look, this is your chance to impress the new manager, show what you've got. And I think it would be harsh to say he's not shown his ability or
Yeah.
he's been poor, because when he's played, he's looked pretty sharp, especially when he came on against Sheffield United and played in midfield. He looked sharp there, but he just didn't seem to get a run in the side after that. And it was very much drips and drabs of game time. So personally, I'd be happy to see him stay. I think it's all been handled quite strangely, but when is West Ham not strange, particularly when it comes down to the contract decisions? So I wouldn't want to pay obscene wages, but I do think he deserves a contract extension and a chance to show what he can do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. He's also only 24 years old. Obviously, he is that homegrown, he fills that homegrown quota for us as well. So, I mean, just looking at kind of his minutes in recent seasons broken down, you can kind of see where he was playing the most in that 21-22 campaign, where he made 20 appearances. Once he got into that, starting 11. He then kind of dropped out, and you can see the minutes he played in 22-23 were reduced to 858 there. And it's just gradually gone down each season. And this season, as you say, he's made 14 appearances, but again, a lot of those have been cameos off the bench with just over 500 minutes played in the Premier League this season. So I think for me, Ben Johnson, it would be, because of the build we need this summer, it would be really silly to let him go. As you say, the wages has to be right. We don't want to be paying ridiculous wages for him, but I think he deserves that. Like you say, he deserves that contract, that extension, even if it's by a year or two under the new manager, Lopetegui, as well, because Ben Johnson is a very versatile player. We've seen that. And what he also has is versatility in the fact that he's both footed. He can play on his left foot, he can play on his right foot. He's comfortable in possession. He's got some really, really strong assets to his game. Again, he did have a dip in performances. And I think we were critical of it as well. We said he needs to perform if he wants to earn the contract. For me, he's 100% shown enough in the last few months since the turn of the year to warrant staying at the football club, especially because, as I say, Lopetegui's coming in. We've got a massive rebuild. We've got again, we're trying to reduce the impact of an aging squad. There's a lot to be done there. And again, that homegrown quota is going to be massive as well. And the fact that he came for our academy, you know, it would be a shame for that type of player to just be let go after, as you say, the Man City performance, the Lyon performance. You know, there's been some fantastic performances from Ben Johnson. He obviously has areas to his game where he needs to improve, but as a squad asset, Sloth, surely it makes sense to keep him, right?
Well, I think that's the obvious thing, is that you think as a member of the squad, he's done more than enough to warrant staying. Now, you can say, oh, well, maybe he's thinking about his long-term career and playing more and actually being first choice. But you look at the teams around us, or even the teams that have been linked with him. You think about Crystal Palace, you know, he doesn't start in their system over their current right back because he's more of a wing back.
Yeah.
And it suits how they play with Elise on that side. And I don't think he's going to get the wages that he may have wanted elsewhere. We know that we can pay quite highly, but I think all the teams that are kind of in and around us are set in that position.
Yeah.
And I find it really hard to judge him in terms of this season because, as we mentioned, he's played in so many different positions and he's looked fairly solid in all of them. And I think when you put it in that term, you've got to say he deserves the contract and you should keep him because you can't just expect someone to be giving you a 10 out of 10 if they're suddenly dropped in midfield. You know, it'd be great if they could, but for a young defender to change his game and adjust to the midfield, it may not sound that difficult to a lot of people, but for a youngster to do that as well, I know he's 24, but someone who's played most of his career on either the side of the pitch, it is tricky. And
I mean, we saw it with Declan Rice. Like he came through as a centre back, and you know when he transitioned into midfield, it took him a long time to adjust. You know, there was multiple games where he's being hooked at half time early in that career playing in midfield. So again, like you say, for someone that's on pretty much a probation period, if you want to call it that, you know, where he's got 6 months to impress until his contract runs out. If you're throwing him into a midfield and expecting to, you know, get a 10 out of 10, that's not his game. But I thought he's played really well when he went into midfield. And I think in terms of that versatility, you know, the fact that he can play in a back three as that centre back on the right side or the left side. He can play left back, right back. I actually think some of his strongest performances have come from left back, to be honest, throughout his time at West Ham. And if we're renewing contracts like Cresswell or extending contracts like Cresswell, why wouldn't we do that for Johnson unless there's something behind the scenes, either A, the wages are way too high / the agent fees, or B, Lopetegui and Stridon have maybe looked at this and thought, okay, this is an easily replaceable person of the squad. But do you think it's easily replaceable just because of, as well, that homegrown quota? I think if he was, say, someone like Thilo Kehrer, where he's not going to count as homegrown and it's an asset you can kind of just get rid of and replace, I understand that. But surely Ben Johnson deserves that contract and chance to prove to Lopetegui that he should be an asset next season.
Yeah, I definitely agree in that sense. I think you can say it says something about the professional themselves to come in and actually be willing to play in a number of those positions. You know, quite often we hear about players who throw their toys out the pram when they're asked to do something different or, you know, they're not selected. And I think you've got to take your hat off to the way that he's handled it. We know he is a very religious young man, and he is very family driven as well. So I think he's obviously you couldn't accuse him of making the decisions in a perhaps wrong sense. I think he's just trying to be methodical and think about his own career in terms of playing time.
100%.
And that's something that he's probably been told in the past, you know, you're going to get more minutes, you're going to get more minutes. And he's looked at the past few seasons and thought, yeah, but they've not really been coming. So
yeah,
as you mentioned, the fact that he is an academy product, and if we want to get European football, that is vital. You know, it's a really important thing anyway. But because for West Ham fans, we're incredibly proud of the academy, and rightfully so. But it's just a case of, if he does stay, I think he'll probably be knocking on the manager's door if he's not picked, saying, look, why? What? Give me the reasons. Tell me what I need to work on. And from all accounts, that's the type of young man he is.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, again, it's interesting that he hasn't been officially put on the kind of release list, and he's still technically a West Ham player. Same with Mubama as well. That happened recently in the last couple of days, where them two names are still technically there. And as I say, we've got until the end of June until their contract officially expires. So I'm hoping we can get something done in the next few weeks. I really do. And I think, as you say, the fact he's come through the academy as well just adds to that kind of, not sentimental value, but he likes playing for West Ham. As you say, he would not want to leave if again, the wages were in line with what he's looking for, and it also works for the club. And B, it's not stunting his career development or growth personally. So I think if he wants to look at it selfishly and he's getting guaranteed minutes at another Premier League club, then you have to hold your hands up and say, okay, fair, you have to do what's in your best interest as a footballer right there. But I think he would get minutes next season. I really do. I think it depends on, again, his performances in pre-season if he was to stay. So, yeah, I would keep him. I think you would keep him as a kind of final verdict. But we'll see what happens throughout the rest of this month and whether he gets released as a free agent this summer at the end of June. So, yeah, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed and let us know in the comments down below. Would you keep Ben Johnson or would you let him go as well in the summer? Yeah, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. And Sloth, until the next one,
come on, you eyes.